Well, I am here with Lincoln Panessy and Marcus Jew from Energy Geeks, and the reason I wanted to have them on today is because this is a really interesting company for me, because I heard about them and I didn't fully understand them, and I talked to Lincoln a lot about their company and I was really intrigued by it, and I think it's a really cool model, and I wanted to get Energy Geeks to explain it to you guys in person about what they do to help you get solar on your roof. So thank you so much for meeting with me today, you guys. Thank you for your time. Tell me, like in a nutshell, what Energy Geeks is.
Our whole job is to help people go solar. That's how we market ourselves. That's what we do. That's all we focus on. And the way we do that is really doing all of the sort of energy consulting work, the analysis of what kind of panels you need, how much power is really needed, how should you finance the system, should you finance the system, really that sort of decision making. We really have streamlined that whole process, and we are, I think, pretty knowledgeable about different types of panels and different technology. We're a little geeky about it almost, and people have to stop us from going off on rants about microinverters and things like this. So we really know what we're talking on that side, and on top of it, because we're set up the way we are, we're all digital, all remote. We work with multiple different local and national and regional installation companies to get the actual projects done. And the value of that is that we're able to be there through the project. So a lot of solar companies are not set up this way. They got a field guy going out to your house or something like this, and you get a nice experience in the beginning, but then if there's any issues, you have a harder time getting a hold of that person because you can't text and drive, right? And so for us, we've got our workstation, we've got all of our access to all of the different projects, our whole fleet of projects we've helped, and that's why I think we give people a better customer experience over time. And because we do everything digitally, we keep our costs so low, we can actually offer some pretty premium panels that are normally priced higher, but because our kind of cost is so much lower, we can really provide a really good value for people.
So this is what confused me when I first started hearing about it, because it sounded too good to be true. I was like, so you guys can give me pretty much all this information about all these different solar providers, because normally as a consumer, if I'm interested in solar, I might call Solar City or I might call Sunrun or somebody, and I'll get their pitch. But then it's like, well, I want to shop around, I want to find out more. So that's a lot of work on my part as a consumer to make more phone calls and have more meetings. You guys kind of take that out of it, right? I call you guys and you guys basically tell me, okay, we know all the different players, we're going to figure out your roof situation and figure out who might be the best for you. And so that sounds, quite frankly, awesome. So then I was like, okay, but how does this work? How do you guys get paid?
It's a pretty common question we get all the time. I mean, every solar consultant, right, energy consultant that goes out to your house, they get a commission when the project is sold. So we also get a similar kind of commission structure. The thing that's been keeping the solar costs, the actual installation costs on a per watt basis so high, has been all the soft costs. It's not really the panels at this point anymore. It's the soft costs like marketing, customer acquisition. That's a big part of a solar project that you have to pay. So we just receive a fee from our installation partners. It's just we don't have to charge as much.
So now I guess another question that came to mind in the beginning was, well, so do you guys have some kind of bias where you're going to just pitch me whoever pays you the most?
For us, we've learned it's about helping people. I think what's more important about the way we structure ourselves is trying to actually really get a sense of how people live in their home. Understanding really, do they need that 10 kilowatt system to cover 100% of their historical energy needs? Or do they really need like a 7 kilowatt system? And trying to find, that's really the conversation.
When I was getting solar back in 2013, I kind of just took a leap of faith because I wanted it so bad. I didn't fully understand hardly any of it, to be honest, and I didn't get multiple quotes either. I was just like, I love Solar City, so I'm going to just go with them. But since then, I've, because you actually have it on your roof, you learn a lot more about it. But like, I'm thinking today, if I had to start today, I'd be overwhelmed because there's SRECs and there's, all these questions and how big should the system be. And I've seen this happen with a lot of people that reach out to us with questions where they're just like, you can tell they're kind of paralyzed. There's just so much information. They don't know who to ask and they don't know who to trust, because obviously if they're going to ask like one company, they know pretty much they're going to get the answer that one company wants to give them. You guys are different in the sense that you work with all the different companies.
We're just trying to build our business based on trust on a national scale, being able to provide kind of like local pricing, right? But being able to get that sort of national brand sort of stability that you know that you can call us up and we'll be able to make sure to solve the problem for you.
If I go through the process with you guys and a few hours in, I'm like, I don't know if any of those options are going to work for me. How does that work? Do you guys just go like, well, it doesn't seem like we have the options that are going to work for you?
Yeah, I guess so, right? Like if at the end of the day someone says they don't want to go solar, first step is, do you want to go solar? Does solar make sense? Take out the leasing, PPA, finance, take that all out. Are you in a good position? Are you about to move in 4 years? Like 4 months, and you're going to go to Florida? Like maybe solar is not a good project for you. I don't know. So first step is figuring that out, and then once that's been solved, then we start looking at what quotes do you have? What quotes can we provide? And more importantly, what do you really need? And I think that's where people don't know what they need because they don't know what's available. So there's an education of like, here's the different options. Here's how things work. Here's the incentives. Here's how you can maximize your investment if you were to buy. Here's how you can maximize your peace of mind if you were just to sort of rent the panels. Okay, then we go into the next phase of saying, now let's figure out what do you want to do. And then only if someone actually says, yes, this plan makes sense for me, we'll dispatch our team and get a site evaluation done and do that process.
Now, why do solar companies want to work with you guys? It seems like from a consumer's point of view, they'd be like, oh, they're just adding a layer of fat to the process.
Yeah, well, because it's hard. It's hard to find customers. Like if you put yourself into the shoes of a solar installer, and you're in a market and you're trying to grow, you got to find customers. And that process is complicated. You got to do Google ads, you got to do Facebook ads. And if you're a rooftop construction installation company, you might not be the best at digital marketing, and you may not do that so well. So then your cost, kind of to get a customer even to talk to you might be really expensive. On top of that, you have to have a really good process because it's so competitive. You got to be able to call, contact, text, be flexible, and have a really good staff to do that. That's also an expensive process. So all those things add up to a pretty big cost when you do talk to a local guy. Again, like I said, out of a $30,000 system, you may be paying $10,000 just for that person to find you. We actually do help a lot of our installers grow their business in a more contained way because they know they're going to get projects that go through. They know that the customers that do sign up understand they're not getting sold through some door-to-door rep who's saying whatever they need to sign a contract. And we hold ourselves to a really high standard of ethics, and we only train the best kind of consultants, and you have to go through a pretty rigorous process to even have access to a specific market. You need to know the utilities, the net metering contracts, the governments, you need to be able to cite where the actual specific net metering rules and regulations are and they're coming from.
One thing I really like about you guys is that you are geeks and that you admit it. I make it a point when I go to events to talk to different solar companies, and usually the reps are friendly, but they don't always know everything. They're probably in a pretty quick training period, and so they know their key points to talk about, but when you get into the minutia and the geeky stuff, the SRECs and this and that, you get a lot of blank stares, or you get a lot of, well, I'll get back to you on that. Yep. Whereas you guys deal with this every day, and so chances are you're gonna have the answers or be able to get those answers really quickly.
Yeah, and I think it all comes from our DNA, right? Like our company was, again, founded 2016, but that's not when we started working in solar, right? We had, we're sort of from a company called Pure Energies that we exited. So we were part of the founding executive team, and that company was exited to Energy at the time, who at the time was trying to go solar, bought a bunch of solar companies. We were one of them, and that was great. And we actually had another company called One Block Off the Grid, which was pretty got a lot of accolades for being a kind of a similar type of service, sort of like a Groupon is how it was marketed back in the day of solar, packaging people together and trying to negotiate better deals with installers to get better cost per watt for buying systems. Because of that, we actually we have experience working with SolarCity. We were one of their largest channel sales organizations in the past. We have a bit of SolarCity DNA, a bit of Sunrun DNA, a bit of every company. Some of them are around now, some of them are no longer around now.
When we're talking about all these different acronyms, SREC, stuff like that, for people watching right now who aren't maybe into solar yet, they might be like, oh my god, this is one reason why I don't want to do it, because there's just too many things I'll have to learn. Is that true? Like, do you have to become a super expert before you can even call you guys, or can I just call you and be like, I want solar but I don't know anything?
There's a certain level of education we apply to the client depending on what kind of situation. If we already know that they made it clear that they only want a zero down option and they want something simple. I just want to save a little money on electricity bill. So we'll just naturally help them gravitate towards like a lease or like a PPA. And but when they make the intentions that they want to make a purchase, and either through us getting financing for them, or them purchasing it up front, then we get into a little more, we're kind of forced to go into a little higher level education. So like I mentioned before, 3 hours prior to this web interview, I was helping a client in Illinois compare a solar lease and a solar loan. And because she was considering a solar loan, I had to bring up a conversation about the SRAC program in Illinois. And after the SRAC conversation, she realized that it's kind of like the iceberg of solar information got deeper. And now she has a lot more to absorb. So originally I left that out because she was only considering a lease at first. And I left it out as for a good reason, to not complicate things. And then when she's like, we made the decision, we want to go to a loan, I'm like, okay, before we can apply for a loan, we need to have a conversation about how the SRACs and the federal incentives work for you. And after that, she learned a lot, but she also felt intimidated, right? Because there was a lot more information kind of like hit her. So now she needs time to digest that, and essentially more scheduled phone calls with me. And in the end result, she's a happier client because she's more educated, which in turn make solar much more successful, because now when she spreads the word, she's confident to have a conversation about it, other than going solar and saying, well, I don't really know how it works.
This to me is what makes this so valuable, because it can be a complicated world. There's all these government incentives, and there's all these regulations and permits and all this stuff. So it is complicated, but you guys are almost to me like a lawyer, someone who's working on my behalf to walk me through and get the paperwork done and stuff like that, so that I don't have to be an expert at it on my own. And as opposed to a salesperson who's like, yeah, it's going to be great, just sign here. And so that's what I kind of gravitated to when I started learning about your company, is that you are that middle ground, which I think a lot of people really need. They know they want to go solar. They know that's what's right for the environment. It's probably right for their pocketbook. But at the same time, they're like, yeah, but I got to answer to my wife or to my husband. I got to make sure that everybody's happy here. And so they don't want to be finding out at the end of the process that they didn't understand something.
You're completely right. Some days I feel like I'm a real estate broker. Some days I feel like I'm a CPA. And some days I feel like I'm a lawyer. Sometimes I have my clients reach out.
But he's a geek regardless.
Yeah, I'm a geek regardless. One of my clients reached out to me about, I have questions about the solar installer's warranty. And we actually did a line-by-line breakdown of their warranty and the production guarantees, if any, the product warranties, force majeure clauses. And at that time, I feel like a lawyer. So I'm funny that you brought that up.
Now, if I'm watching right now and I am a commercial, developer person, so I've got, a bigger property or whatever, are you guys people I can reach out to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're active helping commercial clients across all 50 states and about 3 provinces in Canada. We do, again, most of the process is all remote at this point, which is great. We do typically require, like, kind of Tesla, you to take some photos and participate in the, discovery process, if you will. But that keeps allowing us to use highly trained, reps that can work across multiple markets, and not just hoping that your building is near a really good rep that knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
The reason we want to partner with you guys is that we have the same end goal, which is we want more people to go solar. And there's so many blocks for people to go solar. Some are emotional, some are, just made up or whatever. But like getting information seems, I think we both agree, is the best way for people to go solar, because the more you learn, the better informed you are as a consumer, and the better chance you have of ultimately choosing solar. And I guess to that end, my last question would be, if someone's watching now and they're like, okay, Zach, I get it. You want me to go solar. These guys are the geeks to call. Maybe they want to know kind of what the process is going to be like. So what's the typical process like if I'm calling you now? I've got, the average house somewhere, and like I kind of want to know like time frame and how's it going to work if I call you guys?
It's pretty straightforward. So you'd fill out a little bit of information about your house online, very quick little form. We'd get that information. If we're actively servicing your area, then we'll let you know if we're not. And if we are, then basically we'll give you a quick text or a call and an email to try to connect and answer typically a few quick questions about how you use power and some of your goals for the project. Once that's done, you'll connect to a consultant like Lincoln, who will be able to build a variety of custom quotes and assessments for the property, schedule a over the phone and on the computer kind of digital screen sharing remote assessment. That process takes about 20 minutes typically. Can go for like 2 hours if you're really excited and want to ask a lot of questions. So we typically block off a whole hour, but expect it to be 20 minutes. And then some people at that point, they feel comfortable, they want to move forward. We'll help them go forward with the paperwork and get things going. Other people want more time to think about it. That's fine. Then we'll call them back when it makes sense, and we'll try to help them do this analysis and figure out, is it a good project for them? And if it is, what kind of solution should they go with?
And how does it feel when you finally go through that whole process and you get someone to sign up for solar?
Generally at the end of an application and helping them do all the paperwork online, they feel really relieved and excited. And I think it's very important to let them know that we're not going anywhere. We're literally a text, email, phone call away. Any way form you want to message me. If you want to schedule and block off a time to actually talk to me on the phone for a good hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. Some of my clients have allocated 4 hours of their time to me, and we talk about everything, sometimes beyond solar. Because when we tailor a solution for them, we really get to know them. Sometimes I've had my clients say, we're planning on being home for 12 years. And I'm like, oh, so your kid is like 6 years old? And like, how'd you know that? I'm like, well, kind of did the math. You're probably gonna sell the house when he goes to school. I'm like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, I've been doing this for. That's an example.
Oh, it's Zach, it's crazy. You look at a power bill and you're like, oh, how was that vacation in April? And they're like, what? How did you? Are you stalking? Like, oh, I know that you have their Christmas lights on in January and you don't. Like I know what kind of it's like I can figure out just by looking at sort of your power consumption, how long you keep the Christmas lights up, and that gives us an idea of, you're gonna make a decision quick, you're gonna kind of procrastinate a bit and finally do it once right before the incentive goes away, right? But I think people are really excited at the end of the day, but at the same time it's not like we're not coming out there tomorrow to install the panels. It's kind of like getting excited for a road trip and then you're kind of sitting in the car for a while. So I think the trick is to make sure that people have a good, road trip basically through the process until they get to their final destination. Because it's really exciting to sign up and know you're going to save money, but then if you get you want to make sure you have a good kind of experience on the way to getting to that sort of end point of having the system installed and saving you money and finally getting that bill where you're like, yes, like, see, I saved money, and I can believe it, and I think that's where people just they're skeptical until they see the dollars at the end of the day.
That's so true, and I think that's why neighborhoods tend to go solar by street, because it seems too good to be true until you remember that the sun comes out.
Yeah,
that's true. Like once you put those two things together. Yeah, because you had asked me about my experience, and I remember this feeling of like excited, you sign the papers, then there's the waiting till they put it on, then there's the waiting 2 months for the damn national grid.
It took you 2 months, eh?
They wait till the last day in our area. And like recently I have a 9K system and I wanted to add another, couple K to it, and they're like, nope, you're maxed out. And I'm like, but I've got 3 electric cars, and they're like, sorry.
Yeah.
The grids don't seem to want to go solar that much, and I think that's probably because they know their days are numbered when more and more houses do.
Yeah.
But yeah, to that point about being a geek, I became a geek about solar once they were on the roof and I could see the numbers every day, and I could see, oh my gosh, I made this much today, and you could start to be like, well, I bet tomorrow I'll make 20% more, and you do geek out about it. And then just every day there's this part that doesn't go into the equation, which is you just feel good. Mm-hmm. Like every day that you have solar, you're like, I'm part of the solution now. Right. It just feels
it's different than recycling or these other things, which are great and important for the world and important for the environment. Like when you put a solar panel system on the top of a residential house, that system is there. It's like projecting to everyone that it's possible, it works, it does make sense. You're not a crazy lunatic. You thought through it and it still makes sense. And it doesn't, a lot of, maybe we don't get everybody, and maybe some people are, diehards, this doesn't make sense, it's not going to work. But we know that their kids are going to see it and go, hey, I know it's possible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, it has a really big impact on really changing the way people think about renewable technology, because it's literally in your face. You have to deal with it. you can't not, deal with climate change because, everyone around you is putting solar panels up and you're the one guy on the street that doesn't have it. Like that's what we want. How we want people to feel. We want them to feel like they need to do it, and hopefully their house is a good fit for it. But I think that's like a different like societal benefit of rooftop solar that people don't think about, and everyone's very focused on their own sort of savings and their own benefit, and that's great. But it does have a big impact on just neighborhoods and people's perception of how we interact with the world.
Some of our clients want solar panels on the front of the roof to make a statement.
Oh yeah,
and I really respect them on that, and it just makes me happy helping them. It really enforces me to do a really good job for them, to make sure it's such a smooth solar project for them, and it's so easy.
Well, thank you so much, Lincoln and Marcus, for taking the time today to talk to me. Just to show our viewers, it took us a couple weeks just to get this interview because you guys are so darn busy with your customers. Because, like you said, you spend a lot of time with them to make sure they've got the right information, and that's why I'm excited to be partnering with you guys, because you are genuinely out there for the right reasons, trying to get people to put solar on the roof that fits their needs, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for what you guys do.
You're welcome, Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.
Thanks so much for watching Now You Know. We work hard to bring you videos about things that we think you'll find useful, but we need to know from you what you want to see, so leave your comments below. Also, don't forget to go over to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can watch our Patreon bonus story every week on Tesla Time News. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.